you kidding me? Like, how great is this? Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Mitch Lawrence is back on C2C from SiriusXM NBA Radio. Look at him, New York's finest. Hey, Mitch,
Yeah.
it's great to see you, my man. I got to ask you.
Great to see you.
You saw that space, that dagger, that crossover move on a great defender. Like, I was watching a game and I was like, that was like fantastic, right?
Unbelievable. Well, I'll tell you what's also unbelievable. And I would have asked JB Bickerstaff this in the post game. Why didn't you run a second defender at Brunson and force someone else to beat you? Karl Anthony Towns is fouled out. You don't have to worry about him. Make OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Miles Bridges, McBride, make one of those guys beat you to get a game 7. I mean, it's incredible that he allowed the clutch player of the year in the NBA to go one-on-one. And people tell me that Thompson's a great defender. Is he Michael Cooper? Is he Bruce Bowen? He hasn't earned his playoff spurs yet. He hasn't done anything. That team hasn't done anything. So to me, that was a fatal flaw. And you got to remember this, because you know this too. One of the biggest reasons they got to a game 6 is because Tom Thibodeau, that was a travesty, not calling timeout to get Brunson on the floor for those positions late. So now he's on the floor, and you actually allow your team to be beaten by the one guy you can't allow that to.
So you were talking about game 5 when he was standing on the scorer's table at the end of the game and he couldn't get him into the game.
The only reason the Pistons have got to a game 6 in my mind is because of that mistake by Tom. And I love the job that Tom Thibodeau's done. I think you're correct. The Knicks would be crazy to fire him. But he didn't get Brunson back in the game. And to me, that's the reason there was a game 6. And now if you're JB Bickerstaff, don't you remember that? That's the basic primary reason you're here. And now you're not going to run a second defender at him to force somebody else to beat you? I'll take my chances with OG trying to beat me or Josh Hart. I don't care if Brunson missed a ton of shots, which he did in that game. That's the guy who I am afraid of that is going to send me into the offseason, and that's what happened. So, JB, you know what? They had a tremendous year. So, a team lost 28 straight games last year under Monty Williams. That's almost impossible to do in the NBA. And they reversed that all this year, and it was just like, guys, come on. You got to get the ball out of Brunson's hands.
When you saw Bridges have that dunk on Cunningham, I think it was, where he came in fast and he flushed it, I was like, that's why they got this cat, that he has that extra size and he's quick. And he had a big game last night, 25. I thought that play was huge.
He had the big putback or whatever, the layup that tied it. You know, the Pistons are up, 7 points with 2.5 to go. All they have to do is score another 2-3 points, and they're probably home free. So a lot of stuff does go wrong. Cade Cunningham did not produce down the stretch. They did not have someone who could match the shot making of Brunson, who was incredible. But the problem with Bridges is this, and this is, unfortunately, it's not of his doing, but this is his deal. They gave up too much for him.
Yeah.
He is a guy who's forever going to be linked to 5 number 1 picks, right? They gave up for the guy. They gave up a king's ransom for a player who's like your 4th best player on a given night. So he has to, that always hangs over him. That always is something is going to be a reminder.
Right.
Years ago, I was covering the Mavericks in a different lifetime in Dallas, and they drafted Detlef Schrempf over Karl Malone. Okay? Detlef Schrempf was the guy taking over, and Detlef had a good career, don't get me wrong. He was not Karl Malone, and unfortunately, it took very little time for the fans and people and even the media to keep reminding Detlef, you're not Karl Malone, you're not, and they finally had to trade the guy. And I don't know what's going to happen with Bridges, but he has to play at a high level because people know he's a key piece for them in terms of what Leon Rose wanted to do with getting Karl Anthony Towns. But, man, they gave up too much for him, for what he did that team.
Why can't they beat the Celtics? Ever.
They're not as good. Their talent level. They don't have – let me ask you this. Other than maybe Brunson, who could you say for the Knicks would crack their starting lineup? right?
It's a great.
I
It's
mean,
a
who's
great
better than
point.
Drew
It's a
Holiday?
great point.
Who's better than Tatum and Brown? Who's better than Porzingis?
No one.
Maybe
Who's better than Pritchard?
that's the problem. See, the problem with Knick fans when they talk about, Tom wears them out, this, that, the other. You got to remember too. Look at what they're working with. People can say that this team was assembled to try to beat Boston, but with Boston's experience and the talent level of Tatum and Brown to start with, there's no way the Knicks can win more than a game or two in this series unless Drew Holiday's hamstring is really bad and maybe there's another injury along the way. I mean, listen, I take Boston over. There's not one thing that the Knicks do better than the Celtics. They don't score better. They don't defend better. They don't shoot threes better. They don't do anything in all their games. That's the lasting impression I always got is Boston does everything better than this team. And added to it, Scott, that they have won a title now. So now they know how to get things done, right? That now is kind of baked into their whole DNA thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are the Knicks going to ever beat this team?
So I got 1 minute, respectfully. What the Nuggets Clippers in Denver game 7, and who do you like? And then against the Thunder, whoever comes out of that.
Well, I like the Thunder, although I do have questions about if SGA is off, who's going to step up to be that next guy who can get him points. But I'll tell you this, James Harden is a guy who collapses in the biggest games. We've seen that. He's got 26 career playoff games, Scott, where he has more turnovers than made baskets. He had one the other night when they lost game 5. I know they have gotten to a game 7, and I know what Denver did last year against game 7 in against Minnesota where they crapped the bed. We all know about that, blowing that 20-point third quarter lead. I think Denver wins this game, and I think Harden's going to have another terrible game. That's kind of in his makeup.
I refuse to let Mitch Lawrence go, Mafia. I will not let him go. He's going to come back and do more NBA playoff talk after this segment and break. He is not leaving. I refuse to follow the rules here today on a Friday. Mitch, don't go anywhere. Grab a cocktail. We're going to go another segment.